Fellow Antiguans and Barbudans, my beloved constituents of St. Peter, as we gather with family and friends in this season of reflection, I want to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year. Ending one year and beginning the next is always a time of hope that notwithstanding the clouds and storms of the old year, brighter days are ahead of us in the new year, 2023. For many of us, 2022 was a year of great challenge to meet the requirements of a normal, comfortable life. But the experience of 2022 enlivened the spirit that each of us has the courage and determination to rise up and meet our challenges. The light of that spirit shines bright at the dawn of 2023. In the words of Edith Pierce, and I quote, "We will open the book, its pages are blank. We're going to put words on them ourselves. The book is called Opportunity, and its first chapter is New Year's Day." End of quote. In less than 3 weeks, 18 days into the new year, Antigua and Barbuda will elect a new government in the face of real and very serious challenges. We simply cannot afford an election campaign of petty grievances, lies, deception, accusations, and false promises that have strangled our politics over the years. It is true that at 41 we are still a young nation, but we are old enough for adults in leadership to set aside childish things like the games of self above country, representing not to serve, but to be served. Shortcuts, faint-hearted effort, all play and no work, and pursuing the pleasures of fortune and fame. We need to move past the misfortune of leaders protecting narrow personal interests and postponing difficult decisions in the abuse of public office for private gain. Starting this year, we must dutifully begin the work of renewing Antigua and Barbuda with risk takers, the doers, the builders, the makers of things that would lead us all to progress, prosperity, and real freedom. For everywhere we look, there's much to be done, all over our Twin Island state. For the state of the economy calls for bold, innovative action to create new jobs and reset the foundation for growth. We need a proper road network. We need proper water, electricity, and digital services to feed our commerce and bind us together. We need to improve the quality of our health care and lower its costs. We need to harness the sun, the wind, and the soil for renewable energy to power our homes, fuel our vehicles, and run our businesses. We need to transform our schools and colleges to meet the demands of our time, my dear beloved Antiguans and Barbudans. And so the questions to be answered to this New Year election campaign are very simple indeed. Are those who represent you working for you? You have to ask yourself, are you better off now than you were in 2018? Are you, the people of this country, and the representatives helping families find jobs at decent, livable wages? Do your representatives in your constituencies facilitate provision of proper education, affordable health care, and reliable utility services? These are some of the questions. I continue. Are those who manage the people's money accountable to the people and really and truly accountable? Are they spending the people's money wisely and fairly for the benefit of all? And I say all. Have your representatives conducted the people's business in the light of the day? Do you trust your representatives to make the changes that need to be made to improve your quality of life and the standard of living for you and for your families? Get simple answers, yes or no, to these questions, and in election day 2023. Vote for yourself, vote for your families in a choice of your hope over the fear of spread by others to confuse you into supporting actions and behaviors in leadership that have not worked for you and people like you, your children, and your unborn children. My dear beloved people, this year I'm contesting the election as an independent candidate in the constituency of St. Peter, a constituency in which I've won 4 straight elections over the last 18 years as the candidate of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party. The circumstances of my unlawful removal from the slate of candidates of the Labour Party this time around hold extremely important lessons for citizens who are serious about securing good governance within integrity for development of our beloved country. Gaston Brown portrays himself as an expert on good governance, which is quite simply governing in right and just ways. Yet he's a serial violator of the principles of transparency, accountability, and adherence to the rule of law, which are the pillars of good governance in any civil society. Gaston Brown claims to know that adherence to the rule of law is essential in any government, and breach of its principles lead to chaos and violation and the fundamental rights of its people. Yet he has willfully violated the constitution of his own party to cancel my rights as a member. And when the court ruled that his actions were unlawful, he ignored the court so that he can do as he pleases anyway. How could that be right? With his unlawful imposition of Rawdon Turner as the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party candidate for St. Peter in the upcoming election, Gaston Brown is making it quite clear, pellucidly clear, that the Constitution and the rule of law in Antigua and Barbuda have no consequence to him. He will breach them with impunity to have his way. That cannot be right. It is unlawful. And in this election campaign, the people of Antigua and Barbuda need to understand the seriousness of good governance flaws, which Gaston Brown operates, and the clear and present danger he poses to civic, cultural, economic, political, and social rights in this country. He knows that if Asot Michael is unfit to be a candidate of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party in the St. Peter's constituency, that he elected him with overwhelming majorities in the last 4 general elections, then Gaston Brown is even more unfit to contest elections in this democratic country. So this is not just about Asot Michael. This is about something dark, ugly, and destructive for the unsuspecting people of Antigua and Barbuda. I want you to understand this. As Prime Minister, aware of the neglect suffered by the people of St. Peter's constituency under different administrations over 6 decades, Gaston Brown told me after the Labour Party won the election in 2014 that St. Peter's is a strong Labour Party seat, a garrison seat, and so nothing needs to be done there before other constituencies are taken care of. A man in the office of Prime Minister, a self-proclaimed expert on good governance, calculatedly setting aside the economic and social rights and entitlements of the people of St. Peter who pay taxes like everyone else, every other Antiguan. The nation recalls the appalling treatment of the constituents of St. Peter by the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party under Gaston Brown that came into government in 2014. It is no secret that after I worked tirelessly day and night for 10 years in opposition and utilized millions of my family resources to secure victory for the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, under Gaston Brown's direction, St. Peter got absolutely no infrastructure, none improvement from the resources of the state between 2014 and 2018. Whatever good governance Gaston practiced in his first term in office was not for the people of St. Peter. Whatever was done by me for my own funds and my family resources. The Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, led by Gaston Brown, became the government again in 2018. And notwithstanding his many tall tales of good governance, the neglect and abandonment of the St. Peter's continued. Right before the eyes of our party's history was repeating itself. The same neglect, the same abandonment of the constituency that Joseph Uncle Joe Myers endured under VC Bird 40 years ago is exactly what I've experienced for over 8 years under Gaston Brown. He has willfully led the discrimination against the constituency of St. Peter, while people in recognition of calculated neglect and abandonment ask, what has Asot Michael done for St. Peter? What has Asot Michael done for St. Peter? As parliamentary representative of St. Peter's, since 2004, my commitment to improving quality and life for all constituents, whether they're UPP, ALP, DNA, is evident in the assistance that I have provided throughout the constituency, in the absence of government support, included full scholarships to secondary school, college and university, primary and secondary school supplies, laptops, tablets and IT connectivity, financial assistance for medical attention, locally and overseas, financial assistance for home construction and repair, sponsorship of sports teams and events, sponsorship of artists and musicians, cash grants for small business development, cash grants for the payment of utility bills, livelihood income, support for the vulnerable and poor, annual care and goodwill packages for all households, roads repairs, debushing and land clearing utilizing heavy-duty equipment at cost of millions of dollars over the years. No politician, absolutely none in the history of Antigua and Barbuda has done more from personal resources for the constituency he or she was elected to represent in Parliament than Asot Michael. Asot listens, Asot understands, and Asot cares. And Asot delivers. And Gaston Brown knows that. He knows that. On December the 21st, 2019, 1 year and 8 months after I left his cabinet, for the second time in 5 months, on account of accusations for which no charges have been brought against me, 5 years later, he remembered the significance of my good governance, contribution to the revival of the Labour Party, and the economic success of his 2014 administration. I appreciate the fact that we worked, and I'm quoting here from him, together over a 10-year period when the Labour Party was at its lowest ebb, when it needed energy, it needed intellect. At the time when we traversed the entire country, we did a lot of work, and for me, that partnership was a splendid one. We stuck together, we banded together, and we emerged triumphant. And clearly, Asot would have played a major role, not only in us regaining the governance of the country in 2014, but in even your own contribution as a Minister of Tourism. We know that you did a great job in order to revive that industry, and I want to thank you on behalf of the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda. Those are not my words. Those are Gaston Brown words. On July the 4th, 2020, on his radio station, Point FM, he told Antigua and Barbuda, I have no equal in Antigua in the good governance responsibility of building investor relationships for the benefit of the state. I quote again his words. They're talking about building relations. The only man that has the skill and is superior to me is Comrade Asot Michael. When it comes to building relations and leveraging connections, Comrade Asot Michael is the absolute best. I can say without any fear or contradiction that there's no one in this country, within the UPP, or in any other political or non-political institution, private or public, that have that type of capacity to build relations for the benefit of the state compared to Comrade Asot Michael. None. End of quote. The words of Prime Minister Gaston Brown. Within a year of that statement, he vowed to destroy me because I dared to question the source of his wealth since he became Prime Minister, because I dared to raise the good governance issue that since coming to office, he has claimed multi-million dollar wealth for himself and other members of his family that cannot be explained by their legal income. Now he wants to destroy me. He speaks as the ultimate exemplar of good governance and a champion against corruption in public office. Yet no other leader in the history of Antigua and Barbuda amassed the kind of wealth that Gaston Brown now boasts. To a nation concerned that such wealth could only come from the abuse of office for private gain in the last 8 years. Where did he get it from? He actually said that he had $30 million at the time he entered government. But the credibility of that claim is destroyed by the evidence that his own checks were bouncing all over the place while we struggled. We struggled in opposition. Where did he get this wealth from all of a sudden? Gaston Rowan is the single largest beneficiary of my political capital within the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, derived from my family's legacy as the foundation pillars of the party. It was that political capital that I leveraged to rally the base of the party against my own surrogate father, Sir Lester Bryant Byrd. And this was done so that Gaston Brown could emerge as the party's political leader and subsequently Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda. Motivated by what was in the best interest of the party and the nation as a whole, I spent millions and worked tirelessly to make it happen. Tirelessly, day and night. And today, the promoter of entrepreneurial socialism and empowerment, capitalism for his family, his friends, his cronies, the man who helped himself to a multi-million dollar farm and numerous assets in the name of family members since 2014, while he directed discrimination against St. Peter's and his constituents, is obsessed with cancelling me of all people, me, Asot A. Michael, who was born into the Labour Party, who believed in you, Gaston, supported and elevated you like Judas. You betrayed me and the people of this nation. Sadly for you, you will not hijack the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, which is built on years of hard work and integrity. And I, Asot A. Michael, will continue to serve the people of this country, the nation, independent or otherwise, as I am, for man of the people and on behalf of the people. I will continue my national service, for I'm a patriotic man who loves this country. He wants to thump me in my face because I'm in his personal space, a space and the residence of a constituent of St. Peter that he has never ever visited in his life before, where I spend time regularly, meaning in the mind of a tyrannical dictator, the country and everything in it now belong to Gaston. How can that be right? My late mother gave a loan of $200,000 years ago for refrigeration and air conditioning at his South Mall when he was supposed to be making these millions. And to date, this same Gaston Brown has not paid her back a cent. His brand of good governance entitled him to do that. Come on, PM. As Prime Minister in 2015, he approached me while on my sick bed at Mayo Clinic in the United States to release television equipment that was owned for my company, Caribbean Times Limited, to Antigua Barbuda Service, ABS TV. He then used a company called COVID Limited, a company owned by one of his family members, Osagorex, to fraudulently request and receive a payment of approximately $150,000 from the treasury of this country for equipment that he did not own, never did. He said there was nothing wrong with that. He told me that because I didn't need the money. His brand of good governance, integrity, entitled him to do that. But this act of grand theft is a much bigger scandal than the alleged overpriced purchase of 2 steel frame buildings for less than $52,000 years ago for the construction of the Otters Comprehensive School, purchased from the late Morris Michael, for which Sir George Walter was jailed. He was jailed and imprisoned by the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party on February 1st, 1979. But in the spirit of good governance, we must ask ourselves, who are the real beneficial owners of the 25% shareholding of Western's Oil under the name of Fancy Bridge Limited? Mr. Zhao, Mr. Zhao, who is now currently serving jail time in China? Who are the beneficial owners of this BVI company? Who are the local investors that purchased 30% of Jolly Beach Hotel? Why didn't the Prime Minister answer that question in Parliament when the leader of the opposition, Mr. Pringle, asked him a few weeks ago? Tell us who they are. What else does Antigua and Barbuda need to know about Gaston Brown administration's relationship with the, and I say, as a question, the Odebrecht, in respect of which Ambassador Casroy James is still, I understand, under house arrest in Miami? There have been allegations. So the concoction of lies and deception and slander against Asot Michael is Gaston Brown's way of using me to trick the people of Antigua and Barbuda into believing he is fearless, righteous, and just. He's a leader committed to preventing corruption. He's lily white at all costs in protecting the public interest. But in truth and in fact, Gaston Brown is a brutal dictator. He is going after me not because his shortcomings are any better than mine, but because in fighting to bring me down, he expects to gain credibility for the fake good governance posturing that he has engaged as step one in the establishment of his dictatorship in Antigua and Barbuda. The events to come for the people of this country, this blessed land, are casting their shadows. Dictators destroy freedom and democracy, and they brutalize people into dependence and hopelessness for their corrupt personal gain. Gaston Brown has no respect for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. He's destroying the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party. And as far as he's concerned, the people exist only to be exploited and abused by him for his personal benefit. If you don't agree with him, he'll publicly crucify you with hate speeches in the most offensive language and ensure that you do not progress in your country. Look at how he treated the Liat workers, cursed them, and even colleague prime ministers, Mia Motley, Ralph Gonzalez, and others. And in this fight that Gaston Brown has picked with me, I stand firmly against one-man rule in Antigua and Barbuda. I stand firmly against the denial of the people's right to choose their own representatives. I stand firmly against the corrupt control of the resources of Antigua and Barbuda for the benefit of one man and his family and friends. I stand firmly against Gaston Brown's commitment to destroy with impunity any citizen or organization that questions him, criticizes him, or does not agree with him. As Gaston Brown seeks to amass his wealth with land grabs all over this country for family members and cronies under various fictitious companies, our democratic way of life is under systematic and sustained attack. At this time, Asot Michael is the focal point. But if left unaddressed, there's much more to come. The German poet Martin Niemöller cautioned many moons ago what happens when, in the face of injustice and oppression, we look the other way and we fail in the practice solidarity with each other. And I quote, "First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Second, then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out as I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." End of quote. Martin Niemöller. I speak out now, and the dictatorial machinations of Gaston Brown will never intimidate me into submission to his will as part of the plan to secure the long-term benefit of massive wealth creation from the resources of the poor, struggling people of this nation. Never. And so 2023 begins with a general election and a lot of work to be done in nation building. which will involve protecting our country from the clutches of dictatorship. For me, it will be a labor of love on behalf of the people of St. Peter in particular and the people of Antigua and Barbuda in general, knowing as Barack Obama counsels that we can be confident in God's call on us to shape an uncertain destiny. And I close and quote, "Let it be said by our children's children that when we were tested, we refused to let this journey end, that we did not turn back, nor did we falter. And with the eyes fixed on the horizon and God's grace upon us, we carried forth that great gift of freedom and delivered it safely to future generations." St. Peter, I love you. I'm asking you humbly on election day to go out and to vote for Asot Michael. A vote for Asot Michael is a vote for you, for your children, and for your families. Happy New Year, Antigua and Barbuda. Happy New Year to one and all. St. Peter, my dear beloved people, I love you. I love you dearly. I thank you. God bless you all.